Conversations with God. Wouldn't you like to just sit down at a coffee shop or your favorite place and talk with and listen to the divine creator of the universe? Any of you got things going on in your life that, with the best of your organization and planning and listening to your kindergarten teacher about setting goals, charting a path, even with the best of parents and the best of schools and the best of preparation, somehow we find ourselves often at a juncture, at a crossroad, at a place in our lives where we wonder, where did it go wrong? Where did we go off the rails? How, in the midst of Sunday school and vacation Bible school and disciple Bible study and small group and tithing and choir rehearsal and being an usher and being a trustee, how in the midst of all of the busyness of doing everything I know how to do to be faithful, and yet there are some dynamics going on in my life and my journey that makes me question everything about God and faith. How did I find myself in the midst of this unfolding drama of life? Today's story is the story of Abram. Later we will know him as Abraham and Sarai. Later we'll know her as Sarah and Hagar. And the name Abram and Abraham is synonymous with faith. Every time you say his name, you mention the names of Isaac and Jacob, because Abram becomes this father of the faith. Three of the great world religions trace their lineage and their faith connection back to Abram. But before he gets to this place of fame, he is a 75-year-old. I think he's already beginning to draw his Social Security checks. I think the pension. I think he's at that almost comfortable place in life where 75, my daddy has pretty good wealth and we're still hanging in this familiar land. There's plenty of cattle. In other words, he had checked with his stockbroker and his portfolio looked good. He could take a Mediterranean cruise if he wanted to. But all of a sudden, at 75, when life was settling down and everything seemed to be even keel, God breaks into his comfortable space and says, Abram, I want you to leave home. I want you to leave the comforts of what's familiar, and I want you to go to a land that I will show you, and if you do this, I'm going to bless you. He has to pack up. He has to go to a land, and God doesn't drop a GPS down. God doesn't send a MapQuest. He doesn't give him a triptych. He just says go. But God makes him some promises. Have you felt as if though there have been some promises or things that you could count on from reading Scripture, from believing what the preacher and teachers have said? Are there places in your life where you sometimes feel a sense of disappointment that if I do all this stuff just right, this is how life is going to go? The story picks up 10 years later now, because one of the fundamental promises that Abram had was that God was going to bless him and give him a baseball team for a family. Or maybe more than that. Because God said that he would have as many descendants as there are stars in the heavens. God sometimes, if God could just get God's timing together. We're not always upset with God, but sometimes we just like to help God with his timing. You know, we want to rush God along. God, it's 10 years later. It's 10 years later, God, and I still don't have the first son. I don't have the firstborn. Sarah, Abram, old man, maybe we need to help God out. So what does she decide? Well, here's Hagar, my maid. Here's the slave that waits upon us, and hey, buddy, you're getting a little bit up there. You're getting up there in years, and it seems like, and I'm right there behind you. I'm pushing. I'm only about 10 years younger, and you know, perhaps God will bless us with this family. And the way we got to do it now there's not a conversation. Sometimes we start reasoning. We say we're following God, but we start figuring stuff out on our own. God, you really not working it out the way I thought. So let me just skip this conversation stuff. So she makes this suggestion. And take off your 21st century lens now. But she offers Abram, her husband, an opportunity to take Hagar as another wife, and which was permissible in those days. So she offers, and Abraham, okay, it's your idea, remember that.